Hello, so I'm going to make a video on the theoretical perspectives on social policy, and I'm going to split this into about 5 parts. So I'm probably only going to I'll do the feminist perspective first, and it's just going to be basically me reading through this little section in the booklet, so then I can listen to it later for revision, because I feel like that's going to be the most beneficial rather than just making notes about it. Okay, so the feminist perspective on social policy. How do feminists view society? They see society as based on conflict, but unlike Marxists, this conflict is based on gender and not class. They see society based on patriarchy, benefiting men at women's expense. So feminists basically believe that men are exploiting women institutionally and systemically. So they believe that society is built to benefit men, and they base their assumptions on things like the wage gap. Like, I believe there's a 9% pay gap between men and women, but this can be explained by other reasons. But obviously, feminists just want to put this down to the patriarchy. Okay, what do they see as the role of the state? They see the state as perpetuating women's subordination through their social policies. For example, the state bases its policies on the nuclear family, so offers benefits to married couples and not cohabiting ones, thus creating a self-fulfilling policy by encouraging the nuclear family and making it difficult for other kinds of families. So feminists think that the nuclear family is inherently patriarchal in that it is made for the purpose of just oppressing women and keeping them in their home. And because the woman's role in according to functionalists in the nuclear family is to fulfill the expressive role, which means that she's the one who has to look after the children, because she's biologically more nurturing than the male, and she has to clean the house in order to take the stress off the male and be a taker of shit, so that the man can go out to work and not be so stressed, so that he can earn money and bring it back to the family and keep things going. But feminists don't like the fact that the nuclear family is being pushed by the state, by the means of social policy. So it's not necessarily directly saying that you have to have a nuclear family, but it's offering benefits to those who do have the nuclear family, which is obviously going to encourage that in society. And if you want to have a single parent family, or you want to be cohabiting, or you want to be in a same-sex couple family, you're not going to get the same benefits as the nuclear family. Therefore, it's going to act as almost like a deterrent from people going to those sorts of families, which supposedly are less oppressive. But then again, we could argue that it's actually more oppressive to be in a single parent household, because you then have like a dual burden or a triple burden, whereby if you want to have children as a single parent and you also want to go out to work, then you're going to be exploited in many ways. You're going to be exploited by your children. You're going to be exploited by the workforce and by the bourgeoisie, as Marxists would say, and I guess that's a Marxist feminist perspective. Yeah, so but feminists don't really see that. They see that women are being exploited by men, and this is done through social policies by encouraging the nuclear family, which is inherently patriarchal, and that's what they believe. Okay, what effects do they believe sociology has had on social policy? They see their research as having an impact in education. They have seen changes in the images of female in teaching material, of females in teaching material. It is now more positive. Also, teacher training now ensures they are sensitive to gender bias and encouraging them to be inclusive. Also, the creation of women's refuges for women escaping domestic violence. Feminist movements has also had an impact on policy and on equality. for example, the Sex Discrimination Act and the Equal Pay Act. So, right. Research is having an impact in education. Okay, so I don't really know exactly what that's saying. Okay, I guess well, I guess we can say that there's there's more female teachers than male teachers on average. So I guess teachers are going to cater to the needs of girls more than just the needs of boys, which perhaps would have been the case in the past. I guess one policy we can look at is the introduction of comprehensive education and the abolition of the tripartite system, which was, I guess you can say, it is patriarchal, the tripartite system, because in order for girls to get to the grammar schools, and both girls and boys had to complete an 11 plus test, which they did at the age of 11, but girls had to score higher than boys in order to pass the test and get to the grammar schools. So it shows that girls were being held back almost, that they were set to a higher standard. They had to achieve more highly in order to be able to get to the same place that boys had to get to. But the abolition of that and the introduction of comprehensive education, whereby everyone goes to the same schooling system, and it's based on merit, individual merit, rather than gender or class or ethnicity. Now girls have a better chance of succeeding, because the things that they're learning is, well, they have the same chance as boys to succeed. And also I believe that the introduction of coursework based subjects rather than exam based subjects also caters to the need of girls. So because I don't know, I believe that there's I can't remember exact statistics or numbers on this, but girls generally cope better with coursework based subjects for some reason, whereas boys are more exam based. But I think I think it was last year's results or something, that boys actually outperformed girls, and that was because different subjects had changed the percentages around so that the exam was worth more than the coursework. Therefore, girls weren't doing as good, and yeah. Okay, the creation of women's refuges for women escaping domestic violence. So this is a result of feminist sociological research into things like domestic violence, and this is a good thing because women now have a place to retreat to rather than just having to stay in the home and be abused by their husbands or by men. They can now escape that and have some sort of safe space in order to be able to get away from that. So that's a positive thing. Policies, Sex Discrimination Act and the Equal Pay Act. So the Equal Pay Act was formulated in 1970, I believe, and it basically made it illegal for bosses to discriminate against genders, but to discriminate against the genders when paying wages. So they had to pay men and women equally. But there is still a wage gap in society, which is around 9%, and this can be explained by other things such as the interests of men and women. Like, some women still want to have families and they don't necessarily want to go out and work, and also the fact that it's mostly men who are going to want to achieve the highest status positions within a business, and that's because it's extremely hard and it completely takes over your entire life, and you're not able to have that alongside a family at the same time. Okay, what are the criticisms of this perspective? Marxist and radical feminists reject the view that these changes in law can liberate women. So the Marxist feminist view is that so the changes, women are just going to be exploited in the workforce, in the work industry, as well as in the home, so they can never really be liberated. Radical feminists, they don't see any sort of march of progress within society. They think that women are always going to be oppressed by men no matter what the state of the law. So women have to almost become, they advocate for political lesbianism, which is where you only associate yourself with women and completely eradicate men out of your life because men are stupid, according to radical feminists. They both argue that society needs more far-reaching changes that the existing state cannot deliver. Yeah. Okay, so that's the feminist perspective on social policy and sociology. So my next video will be on the Marxist perspective on sociology and social policy, and after that, functionalist perspective, new right perspective, and then I believe it's social democratic, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for watching.